I've been seeing a lot of panic with all the new AI generation tools in my news feeds. Is this the end of 3D artists? This video is sponsored by Skillshare. I also have a free product update and some freebies I'll be giving away at the end of this video, so stay tuned if you're interested in that. So if your newsfeed looks like mine, it is just absolutely overtaken by all these new AI art generators, and it seems like there's a new one each day. We have Imagen, DALL-E, Midjourney, Stable Diffusion. It's also starting to generate a lot of controversy as well. An artist just won an art competition using an AI-generated piece of art, and not everybody felt that was fair. Reddit mods are starting to ban AI-generated art in their subreddits because they're getting overrun with AI-generated art since there's less barrier of entry. Also, there's a lot of discussion around the morality of using these AI art generators because oftentimes they will skim artists' artwork without their permission and use those as part of their calculation, making most artists feel like their work is being stolen. Now, we're not going to be diving into all those controversies in this video. Frankly, there's already a lot of articles, videos, and discussions being had around those topics. What I want to talk about on this video is, as 3D artists, is there still a career path for us in this new world full of AI technology? And the short answer is yes, I believe there is. What I'd like to do in this video is talk a bit about how technology has changed art in the past, and maybe some tips for how we could start to adapt and learn how to use these things as we move forward into the future of our careers. So, taking a look at the past, this isn't the first time that new technology has come in, scared artists, and radically altered the future of art. Let's look at a couple examples. One such example, if we go further back, is at the invention of photography. When photography began starting to be used to take portraits, it was, of course, a major threat for traditional artists who had oftentimes been hired to paint portraits. And of course, photography has boomed into its own business, ripe with opportunities for artists all around the world. Now, with the way films used to be made, the editors actually had to go in and they actually had to cut and paste the film reels together to finish editing their films. But now we have digital editing, so those jobs became obsolete. However, with digital editing, it opened up the barrier to entry, and now there's actually a lot more video editors than there were before. It just looks a bit different. Now, if we move forward to when 3D was getting implemented in feature films a bit more in the late 80s, early 90s, we start to see things like Jurassic Park, where they had initially hired a stop motion animator to animate all the dinosaur visual effects. However, ILM came in with 3D animated versions of the dinosaurs that looked a bit more fluid and realistic, and thus they moved forward with 3D animation in Jurassic Park. There was a lot of worry that it would be the death of stop motion animation once Jurassic Park was made, and in a way, it did slow it down quite a bit. However, think about how many opportunities have also come from the invention of that 3D animation. It used to be that Hollywood films in general would have an average of about 50 visual effects shots per film. And now we're seeing that films have 1,500 to 3,000, especially in some of these Marvel films where they're largely visual effects driven. And of course, with the explosion of this industry comes a lot of new jobs and opportunities for people who want to work within that career. There are definitely more 3D art jobs and visual effects jobs and game dev jobs than there ever were just strictly stop motion jobs. And also, of course, with the progression of software as well, things like Blender Eevee being so efficient on minute machines. I know people that have been able to produce 3D animations for tech giants using just a simple MacBook and Blender Eevee. So as we see in all these examples, some jobs do become obsolete, but oftentimes the result is a lot more opportunities and sometimes an expansion of the art community or opportunities that artists have to pursue as a career. So getting back to all this AI stuff, us as 3D artists, what type of career should we be pursuing in this new world being intermingled with AI technology? Let's look at some of the advantages we have as artists over AI technology. Now, some people like to make the argument of human touch. However, that can be a weak argument in the face of corporate entities whose sole purpose is to save money on a project. Also, there are videos now of artists themselves not being able to tell the difference between an AI-generated image and an image handcrafted by an artist as well. However, the human touch is more than just whether you can tell if the final piece was actually handcrafted from scratch by a human or not. And actually, the human touch is a large part of the client process. So for example, the client will come to you with their product goals and their user needs. And as an artist, it's going to be your job to translate those product goals and those user needs into themes and metaphors that will play across the final product to thus best accomplish those goals. And that's something that computers are still quite a ways from doing. And you may be thinking, yes, but couldn't a person just enter those themes and goals into a computer and then generate those images, and yet then again skip over the process of the artist. And yes, we may eventually come to a point where that is the case, that most artists are more art directors directing the machines and algorithms than they are actually getting in with a blank canvas and creating something from scratch using tools, modeling, sketches, and more. However, I think that's a ways off. And the reason I say that is that because a lot of AI generators are still working with random seeds and scraping random images across the internet. So the text prompt you enter may be different each time. And why that matters is because in almost any professional art career situation, you're oftentimes never going to be able to just make one image and submit it. You're oftentimes going to have to iterate a lot working with art directors, working with clients, or whoever it may be to refine and produce the final product. And it's worth noting that AI is also starting to address this as well. Stable Diffusion allows you to paint out portions of images to affect those specifically. And if you've seen Corridor Crew's recent video, they actually go through and train AI specifically to generate the type of art they want using the images they want. And of course, these type of tools are always evolving, and thus they could actually begin becoming much more iterative in the future. However, I don't think that's an imminent threat, because even if they get good at certain iterations, it's going to take a long time before they can encompass all aspects of an artist. Let's take a moment to talk about our sponsor. Classes on Skillshare are designed to learn by doing, and they're usually around 40 to 60 minutes long. If you're a creative person like me, or if you're trying to learn a new skill, Skillshare is perfect for you. One of my favorite authors on Skillshare is Aaron Draplin. He does a lot of courses on design, and his typography course actually helped me when designing the artwork for my channel. I also have several classes on Skillshare as well if you're interested in learning more about Blender 3D, and there's also some other Blender 3D courses on there as well. If you're interested in taking a professional turn on improving your skills, then I highly recommend checking out more courses on Skillshare. You can now take this course for free by using the link in my description box, and you'll also receive unlimited access to tens of thousands additional classes for an entire month. And I'm sure you've heard that AI is now coming for 3D modeling as well, that there are tools out there now that can just look at an image and generate a model. And although it's very impressive technology and very impressive to look at, these models are far from being production ready to use. But there's a lot of opportunities within 3D art. We have modeling, texturing, animation, rigging, lighting, compositing, and it's going to take a long time for AI to fill in all those gaps, if it ever even is capable of filling in all those gaps. This isn't the first time artists have been worried about AI coming to steal all of our jobs either, yet here we still are. If you look at an old Blender conference video starring Andrew Price from Blender Guru, he talks about this many years ago, and he talks about how AI and technology can actually assist artists in removing some of the tedious tasks associated with the creative process. And the example he uses, he talks about rotoscoping, and he says that by using these tools, we can actually focus more on the creativity and the art direction and expanding the scope of the project. And I actually think this is still true. I think a lot of these tools can actually assist us to get rid of the parts of our jobs or just even our hobbies that we don't enjoy. Some recent examples, I recently had a company reach out to me from With Poly, which generates textures for you with AI, which is really cool. NVIDIA is developing a tool that lets you paint your own HDRIs. And we have Unreal Engine's super cool MetaHuman that will make game engine NPCs look much more lifelike. I even recently did a video on this where I covered 5 AI art tools that I felt could be helpful to Blender users. Things like AI upscaling and inserting more frames in an animation with less GPU power, and things like that that can actually help you produce your artwork more efficiently. So how do we go about pursuing a 3D career in this new world? And especially when the tools are coming out at such a rapid pace that it's hard to keep up with. Well, I would encourage you to really focus on your ability to pivot and adopt new tools into your pipeline to utilize them as new opportunities. I think that should be your primary focus if you're looking to become a 3D artist as a career. Try and view some of these tools through the lens of opportunity. For example, an independent game developer could create a much more complex 3D world with the assistance of some of these tools coming out. Even when you look at AAA games with huge budgets, they're oftentimes reusing and recycling assets constantly across games within a franchise or across an environment because they don't have time to create every little detail in that world. With some of these tools, they could make more of those things and instead hire more people to put those environments together and really focus on kind of art directing and creating a realistic environment through the placement of all of these assets. So, again, that's a new opportunity. And I guess the point I really want to drive home here is that I really think there still is a great future for 3D artists and artists in general, even if in 50 years those opportunities look different. And I would really just encourage you to lean into learning how to adapt and learn new tools, but also to lean into your humanistic skills that can't be replicated by a computer. Things on working with clients and product goals and user expectations, art direction, all of these things that play a role within the artwork we have outside of just the technical skill set that we have. Now, with a lot of these AI tool sets that are really trending on kind of news headlines and things, a lot of them are geared towards generating a final kind of 2D image. And there's a lot of opportunities for us as 3D artists outside of just producing a final PNG. And although other tools are in development, I think it's going to be a while before it takes over the rest of the production pipeline. Now, no one can guess the future or what jobs will become obsolete when new tech comes in. Right now, I'd have to say that with these AI generative tools, I'd have to say that I'd be a bit worried about kind of the stock photo industry, some of the stock asset industries, potentially concept art, which of course is sad. There's a lot of talented artists in all of those industries, and you don't ever want to see any job become obsolete. So I just want to acknowledge that even though new tech can be cool and helpful to some artists, it can also be sad to see certain art forms or jobs maybe become less common. So I, of course, always hope that the artists involved are able to pivot and use their skill sets elsewhere in a way that they find creatively fulfilling. But when I made this video, what I really wanted to do is offer you hope because I was seeing so much panic in my newsfeed. I don't think artists are gone forever because of AI. And it may change the way some of our opportunities look or some of the jobs have. But I think that if you want to pursue a 3D art career, I think that you should, because I think that there's going to be a lot of opportunities for a long time, and just be mindful of what's out there and what you can use to help you do your job best. Lastly, I just want to mention the kind of like freebie project I announced. So I'm doing a free update for my asset pack here, which will include some cotton clouds, both 2D and 3D versions. And then I'm also adding in a stitch generator. And then anytime I do a free update to my crafty asset pack, I also update the sample pack with a new asset. So if you want to go download that pack, I have some of the clouds in there for you to play with. So go ahead, check those out. Let me know what you think.